This is Michael Delzer with GigOhm. This presentation today is over DevOps transformation using no-code orchestration and how to make it real, how to make DevOps something that can be sustainable now and provide you great value going in the future. Our agenda coming up will be presented by myself, an analyst with GigOhm Research, a leader in a vendor that has a product in this space, and a customer that actually is deploying this and solving their problems. So Chandra, do you want to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Michael. Good morning, afternoon, good evening, everyone. I'm Chandra Ranganathan, CEO of Opsera, and also have significant experience running infrastructure, DevOps, and cloud at scale at companies like Uber and Symantec. I also have with us here Naresh, who is an industry thought leader and a senior leader at Honeywell, and also happens to be a partner and customer of Opsera. I'd like to introduce Naresh.
Yeah, thanks, Chandra. Hi, everyone. This is Naresh. Currently at Honeywell IT, leading the application development portfolio. Glad to be part of this DevOps GigOhm webinar, and I would like to share the journey, what we went through at Honeywell.
We're going to talk about some of the key challenges that you have when you're trying to do DevOps and what causes things to kind of fall apart. A no-code approach to actually solving this kind of challenge that people are hitting. We're going to talk about Honeywell's journey and how they're using this to modernize the way they develop applications. Talk about one of the vendors in the space, which is Opsera. Talk about the best practices to get you forward and how you can do this yourself and be sustainable over a long period of time with your own company. And then go over a few questions and answers that were submitted earlier. When we're talking about DevOps, one of the things you really need to have prepared for you is what you're going to say to your CFO when he says, what happens if we do nothing? A lot of your senior leadership developed code, if they did develop code, in an era where they could have just thrown it over the wall, where developed, you shipped it to test, you shipped it to operations, and it was this kind of siloed world of operations. That's not the way things work today, and it's not sustainable, and they need to be aware of that, and you need to be able to prepare an answer to them. And so this slide deck is going to give you the ability to tell your CFO or any executive why they need to care and why they need to fund this and why doing it now is the right time. In a lot of companies, the way they were staffed were by skill set. You had engineers, developers, Unix admins, Linux admins, Windows admins, testers, QA. They're all individual groups that basically toss things over via email and files. The concept of DevOps worked really well in small organizations where one application, one DevOps team, and that works for a lot of companies. When you start getting to really complex software, you now need to have this concept of pure developers tied to a DevOps team that can support them, that use services that are provided by the IT group that's supported by different groups. So as we see in this kind of bottom right, your ability to go from individual groups that can operate in silos to very large organizations where you may need to have a kind of a hybrid model where you mix these groups in. So you still have dedicated operations people, you still have dedicated security people, but you're basically abstracting them by creating services that the DevOps staff can consume. And that fits really well into a no-code pattern that we're going to be talking about. And this gives you the ability to then connect these things to other ancillary systems that you need to be able to support, like FinOps and GitOps and all these ways of providing audit and resource management. So this is kind of why tooling is really important. One of the things that we saw in the past was this bring your own tool, where each developer or each group picked their own tool, and it worked well when they were all in their own little silos. Now we're doing DevOps. These people are now mixed groups. The tool sprawl is not sustainable. You can't secure it. You can't maintain the patching. You're spending more time on maintaining these tools than you're actually getting value out of them. And the complexity of each person choosing a tool drives challenges for the rest of the organization. So one of the things we're proposing in this presentation is a way of solving this kind of tool sprawl challenge.
Michael, could I make a couple of comments? You spoke about
Yes.
DevOps and the challenges that span process complexity, org complexity, and now tools, right? So if you really look at it, these tools, or the tool sprawl, for lack of a better word, is driven by innovation, right? There's a lot of different kinds of applications. Companies use different clouds, and developers just need to innovate, right? So you can't really box them into a particular tool. So choice of tools is needed. Similarly, you shared a slide with process complexity where it's just not a straightforward set of steps. You may have interdependencies across applications and different steps across teams. And similarly, even the org that you mentioned, there's no one right answer to the org, right? You could have a central DevOps team and others consuming it, or for smaller applications, it could be small teams. Do you, from a GigaOM perspective, do you see any particular recommended model here, or you just look at the use case and basically do what's best for that use case? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and as the company gets more mature and larger, you can start saying, okay, here's my team that I trust with finding new tools and kind of standardizing on them. And they introduce it into a tool system the rest of the corporation can work. You need to have some level of control. Otherwise, you really didn't achieve much by letting people choose their own tools, because sometimes some of these things are issues with licensing or security controls. And a developer may be so focused on trying to get my job done that I'm willing to compromise on security because it's not my job, or at least I probably will not get fired. But that still doesn't help the company. So the idea is that if you do have this rockstar group that's really good about finding tools, yeah, let them find new tools, find issues that people are having, try to find something that works for them, then introduce them into your no-code ecosystem, where you now can have a maintained curated list that other developers can consume without having to go through the minutia of trying to find the correct tool for that need, and then how to patch it, manage it, how to train on it, how to write procedures for it. So there is this concept of a group that finds tools, introduces them into an ecosystem, but you want a ability to abstract that from the normal developers so they can focus on doing their job and their DevOps functions without having to worry about the complexities of maintaining these individual tools, the security controls, the patching, the backups, the operational stability of them. So that's kind of the reason, the idea of putting this no-code layer in here, to give a curated list so people can do their jobs quickly, while having another group that has the ability to find new products and address new needs and introduce them into this food chain. That's why it's, I like the idea of a kind of a curated list. So going for like a museum metaphor, you're not just wandering down a warehouse of random artwork. The curators have created a story for you to go through to understand the relationship of these parts, and it makes the journey going to that museum more meaningful and provides a greater value. So we're doing that same kind of concept with software. We're basically creating a storyline and a journey where people can be successful and have a valuable outcome without having to worry about why this thing compared to this thing. And that's kind of this big PowerPoint of using this kind of abstraction of a no-code approach, because it reduces the pain and churn that people are seeing. And I think Naresh from Honeywell can kind of talk about how this was happening in his world. This is, again, where we're talking about this concept of where this no-code fits. Above this series of tools that the company wants to use or is using is where you slide in this no-code interface. That allows the development staff to be kind of separated by this kind of abstraction layer from the complexities of these individual tools and version controlling the tools or that kind of piece. So it gives us a better environment for people to work. And I think this is kind of what we should expect to kind of hear what Honeywell has kind of discovered on their side in actually implementing this kind of no-code approach to tool selection and tool maintenance. So let me introduce Naresh with Honeywell.
Thanks, Michael. These are some of the challenges we faced at Honeywell. We have been doing DevOps in silos for a couple of years. What we faced challenge because of that is, as Michael pointed out, like in other organizations, we also had ended up with silo tools, and each team invented their own tools, and that's how we ended up with a lot of silo tools. And people capability is also is a challenge because the maturity of the skills that are required to do the DevOps automation is lacking across organization and at varied level of maturity. Some teams had a low maturity, some teams had high maturity. That caused some challenges. From the overall process and standards perspective, again, we didn't have enterprise-wide, the standards for DevSecOps, and also the tools were siloed because of that. Technology standards were also lacking. And we also have another challenge at Honeywell where we are not into 100% custom development. So we had some portion of portfolio where we custom develop the applications for enterprise-wide. And we also have, kind of buy COTS platforms from outside, for example, Salesforce, Teamcenter, etc. And we kind of now customize and deploy for Honeywell needs. So this variation also posed a challenge for us at Honeywell, where we don't have a no-code or one single platform which could do the automation for custom development as well as COTS packages. So that was one of the other technology challenge we faced at Honeywell.
So Naresh, when you looked at this slide with people, process, technology challenges as to where you are and where you want to go, it just nicely ties back to what Michael was talking earlier, right? The process complexities, the org structure, depending on what works and what's optimal to you, and also the tools, everything is coming together in what you faced as well.
Exactly, Chandra. I think all the challenges what Michael talked about applied to Honeywell as well in our context. And so with that, what we have done is we, a year back, we got together and we said, hey, this has to be an org-wide transformation. We cannot leave at an individual project level the maturity and tool standards. So we said, it has to be a company-wide vision. So that's how we came up with the vision mission statement a year back. And as part of that, we said, hey, the main intent is to reduce the cost of our IT products and solutions and increase the velocity and time to market. So, as we kind of now thought through these pillars, we also got a lot of management support. It's a top-down approach to some extent, and we got a lot of executive support from our Honeywell leadership. And one of the area we talked a lot is how we can do DevSecOps automation with the no-code platform. And as part of that, we thought this would establish a standard technology across enterprise, and we can also do orchestration without a lot of manual coding effort. And the second element we talked about, we thought through is a coaching and training. Because of the skill and the people challenges we had, we said we had to structure the overall training mechanism and the coaching mechanism across enterprise IT to start with. And that's a second, a strategic pillar we thought through. And the third one is about process maturity and governance. As Michael mentioned, if we leave it to the individual teams, the process and the tools, they will spread across, and it's very difficult to manage across enterprise IT. So we said, hey, let's come up with the overall maturity model, how we can measure the maturity of our organization, and also how to govern this across process, people, and technology layers. So that's the third pillar of the strategy we thought through and we structured at Honeywell. And this happened a year back, basically.
So Naresh, what does maturity mean for you in the context of DevOps? Right now, it can mean a lot of things that usually gets brought together, in order to get your maturity score that has different dimensions of considerations, right? What does that mean for you, or what did it mean at Honeywell?
Right. So Chandra, what we thought is if we talk about these three pillars, right? The technology pillar. So the technology maturity, we came up with a couple of dimensions of the technology maturity. How do we have standards, first of all? And is the team following the standards what we established? And is the technology platform, for example, whether the teams are using the standard platform what we deployed across organization, and whether the teams are kind of really achieving their KPIs the way they're supposed to kind of automate with no code and quickly deploy their products, and are they kind of really reducing the cycle time and time to market. So these are all the various aspects we kind of measured in terms of maturity. And also the training. For example, we also came up with a very structured training framework and the coaching framework. We also kind of measured some of the elements like, hey, in a team, is the 100% team trained in that, first of all, to be able to use the products? And also, is the process compliant perspective? We also kind of included DevOps as a process compliance element at enterprise IT. So we measure whether the teams are adhering to the process framework. So, and we also tied this to our enterprise project management framework. And any project which is following the DevOps, they have certain methodology of DevOps framework linked to our portfolio management process. So are they following and adhering to those aspects? So these are all the various aspects we measured, the maturity aspects, Chandra.
Awesome. Thank you, Naresh.
We said we have to have a decision criteria because ours is a large organization and we have hundreds of projects. And we sometimes struggle, okay, do we need to kind of do for all the projects, or do we need to select some of the candidates for the DevSecOps? So as part of that, we came up with this criteria, which worked very well for us last year, where we kind of looked at entire project portfolio across enterprise IT. And we looked at, hey, some of the key aspects like, is the velocity of deployment is a key criteria for this project or not? Is this project using the latest technologies, cloud technologies? And is fundamentally using agile methodology or not? Because we felt agile is a foundation block before even we start the DevOps. So we expect people to kind of really deploy agile framework before they kind of embarking into DevOps journey. So this is the criteria we applied. If the team requires frequent releases, if they really kind of mature in a certain level of agile methodology, and then if it is operations intensive, then we said, hey, we need to do a full-scale end-to-end DevSecOps deployment for this particular project and IT platform. And if it's only development intensive, not operations intensive, then we said, hey, let's start implementing the release management CI/CD for the development lifecycle. And then later, once it is operations intensive, we bring the operations and kind of integrate both together using DevSecOps. So that's the decision criteria. It worked out very well for us. Using this criteria, we selected almost 15 tech platforms at enterprise IT, where we felt we need to kind of deploy the DevSecOps platform and achieve the no-code automation.
Now, there are some companies out there that still have to do some projects waterfall. You can still use this approach for waterfall projects. It just takes a little bit more finessing in that third step here. It may not necessarily be a waterfall or an agile methodology, but there has to be some way of addressing the release cycle and the operations pieces in more of an agile approach, even if it's a waterfall big bang effort. So we're not saying that you have to be agile for this to work. It's more efficient for agile. And if you do have to have a waterfall type project to go through here, you just need to finesse that third step here to figure out how you'll incorporate DevOps and the value of DevOps in something that is kind of a waterfall big bang type of event.
Yeah, I think that's also possible. We had certain cases where we kind of felt the need of that for even waterfall, but the question of value, right? Do they need very frequent releases or not? Whether we can spend this, we can do this kind of investment to do the complete automation for such kind of projects or not. So it's a more of a balance between the value of what we can provide and the investment, right? So again, we kind of selected 15 tech platforms at Enterprise IT where we wanted to deploy DevSecOps. It's a year back. We started this journey. And we wanted a comprehensive approach which can be sustainable. Because while we are deploying this, we don't want it to be a one-off kind of approach. So we wanted to kind of have a systematic approach and deployment methodology. So right from change management communication, how we do kind of governance evolution, and how we can kind of really manage this as a more of a project portfolio. The deployment aspects of DevOps, how we can manage that as a portfolio by itself. So we have a very structured methodology, and from the strategy and till the roadmap we came up with, worked with all the functions and SPGs at Honeywell. We came up with a DevOps roadmap, and we kind of had implemented this. Almost the implementation time took 8 months for us across Enterprise IT, and we also have kickstarted the monitoring and basically the maturing the aspects, and also monitoring the maturity aspects across our organization.
And one thing that's really interesting to show people here is you don't have to come with your final tools selected. So in Honeywell's tool standard is a future state for them. So one of the value propositions of doing this no-code approach is the fact that you can do this gradually. It's not a big bang, I put in a no-code, I buy a bunch of new tools, and we're done. You can slide in no-code as you curate your list of tools that you're currently using, which is kind of what Honeywell is approaching here.
Right.
Realize that it's not as spooky as it might sound, is that there is ability to gradually do this. So it's not a huge culture shift for your organization, and it's not a huge HR nightmare on reorganizing staff.
Yeah, absolutely, Michael. I think we kind of said that it has to naturally evolve, and definitely it's not a big bang. And we also wanted to kind of take an iterative approach. So initially, from the org perspective, we said the teams can kind of stay where they are, but we kind of really integrate the skills and the people required for the project, and form a project team, right? Rather than really integrating and centralizing all the teams together. So that's one thing that helped to kind of manage from the org change management perspective. And we also kind of said, hey, the tools is one thing we need to take. We need to take a call, at least from the platform perspective. We needed a no-code platform. Otherwise, our tools investment is growing a lot at Honeywell with a lot of siloed tools. So that one thing we didn't want to compromise. So we evaluated, the platforms in the market. We selected Opsera, which helped to kind of bring this one platform across enterprise IT kind of approach, and with using which we eliminated a lot of siloed tools. So that's one big advantage, I would say, using no-code, one platform across enterprise IT, right? So this, as we talked, some of these standard processes we established, and where we were having lack of the standards earlier. Now we have standard process, framework, and maturity model we defined. And as I talked about, we have one platform right now, and across enterprise IT. So it's a no-code platform. It is helping a lot of teams to kind of do this automation of DevOps without any manual intervention. And we have almost all the selected platforms. We said 100% automation should be done across CI/CD pipelines. And we trained 800 people across enterprise IT. So that's one of the biggest achievement last year for us. And we also kind of seamlessly integrated dev and ops teams together as a project teams, of course, but not centralizing the teams, but integrating them both, and bringing the synergies between dev and ops teams. So that was a big success, because it kind of really brought a lot of collaboration and coordination between dev and ops, and visibility across the life cycle. And we implemented overall 13 platforms, and within a span of 8 months. And as you see, some of the key metrics, the cycle time, one big thing for us is reducing the deployment cycle time. So we could reduce an average level of 65% cycle time reduction happened. Earlier, we used to have a baseline of 100 minutes. Now we are kind of doing an average of 35 minutes. And quality improved. Of course, it still needs to improve significantly. We did a shift left of the quality approach, where the quality teams were a part of the every sprint we went through. So that's how we improved the quality and also automated a lot of quality aspects in terms of code checkings and really comprehensive code coverage. All these tools helped in terms of quality posture improvement. There was an 8% improvement in that. Still, we are marching towards higher number. We are aspiring for around 25 to 30% improvement this year. And then DevSecOps maturity, as I said, we established a very comprehensive maturity model across organization, so we could improve all aspects, like around 30% maturity we saw last year. And also the satisfaction improved because we also drove this as a service across organization. So our service metric also says the stakeholders are very happy. They felt that the manual intervention came down, and it kind of helped to automate them faster. So this is where we are. I'm proud to tell that really it's a good journey for us last 1 year. Of course, there is a lot to do and mature this whole DevSecOps across enterprise IT and across Honeywell enterprise overall. So we are still we are still marching towards that.
This is a fantastic view to where you were and where you are now, and that too in a very short span of time, right? And it's also been an honor for myself and our Opsera team. Kumar has been very involved as our CTO and the team. So it's been a very learning experience for us as well, working and being part of your journey. You mentioned you chose 15 platforms, and we almost implemented this for 13 platforms out of the 15 in a relatively short period of time. Can you shed some light into the diversity of those platforms? Does it cover multiple use cases? It would just be good to know that whether it covers the span of IT and technology teams.
Sure, Chandra. I think when we started this, as I mentioned, one particular portfolio is a custom development portfolio, a custom app development, a regular SDLC lifecycle. How we can kind of really do the release management and the continuous integration, continuous deployment aspects for those custom developed software. And the second category we have is these technology platforms, what we call it at IT, where we kind of buy these COTS packages from outside. For example, to name few, SFDC, Salesforce.com is one such example. And we have SAP Hybris, and we have also call it as chatbots, and we also have Steam Center, Joule platform, and Servigistics, Informatica, and the Snowflake, Epig, and PeopleSoft also we are planning to do. So these are to name few. These are our Honeywell COTS platforms where we deploy them. We also customize them, but for them also we said we need to kind of integrate the CI/CD and mature the DevSecOps for these the platforms what we have at Honeywell IT. So that's one thing I would say Opsera helped a lot in terms of not only for the custom development software, but also these COTS packages when we are deploying them and kind of continuously enhancing them. It really helped to bring the maturity of CI/CD and also kind of embed the security while we are kind of really deploying these platforms across board.
All right. And we see that one of the leading vendors in this space is Opsera, who's helped kind of create this market for a kind of a no-code DevOps ecosystem. Let's hear from Chandra more about Opsera.
Thank you, Michael. Thanks, Naresh. That was a wonderful look into your journey, and I'm sure there's a long way to go as well. But it's a fantastic start, and what you achieved in a short period of time has been nothing short of amazing. So great work to you and your team.
Thanks, Chandra.
I'd like to take a quick look at Opsera and provide an overview of what Opsera is. So Michael has been talking about no-code orchestration in order to abstract the complexity of DevOps, whether it is tools, people, and process. Opsera's focus is continuous orchestration for next-gen DevOps, and the goal and a vision to make software delivery fast, safe, and smart. So agility, security, and also cost and efficiencies are significant value propositions that Opsera focuses on. Opsera is a DevOps orchestration platform. So it's a SaaS platform where we have a control and a data plane concept. The data plane is a dedicated VPC for every customer managed through a control plane that can be shared or dedicated. And our goal is to maximize choice of CI/CD tools along with no-code automation. So basically tool agnostic, cloud agnostic, but also brings in no-code automation to help orchestrate tools, pipelines, and insights. Now, as we saw earlier, when you have multiple use cases that span SDLC or SaaS or maybe even infrastructure, and when you have many tools that are used by many teams, making all of those tools work can be a lot of time, a lot of cost, significant complexity, and you don't want companies to spend valuable engineering time in managing tools and pipelines versus on managing your core product and services. That is where we significantly help. So the platform helps orchestrate tools, pipelines, and insights. So on the toolchain automation, Opsera provides a self-service catalog of the most prominent CI/CD tools, right, across the DevOps spectrum, whether it's build, integration, security, quality, and also deployment tools. There are best-of-breed point solutions for all of those functions, and typically you see enterprises want a choice of those tools. Michael, you mentioned controlled choice. Absolutely, it's controlled or sanctioned choice versus wild west choice, right? But you still need that choice and flexibility for different teams and different platforms. And we provide most 80+% of those tools in a catalog. We also allow you to bring your own tools or bring your own scripts, bring your own parameters in order to integrate quickly to what you have. And all of this can be set up and integrated in a matter of minutes, under half an hour, so to speak. So once you have these tools, you can now build no-code pipelines, right, where you don't have to write any scripts. Opsera's solution generates your JSON and YAML, etc., for the pipeline workflows to be automated. You can easily, for example, if you have to create a pipeline, for an application that needs 5 tools and spans 2 clouds, you can just do that in a matter of minutes with a click and configure approach, where the code gets generated in the backend, and you can now integrate security and quality dynamically into those pipelines. You can build approval gates for compliance, because these are important things as you have to automate sensitive applications that Naresh spoke about earlier, right? So you can do all that without writing code, so that makes it fast. That also makes it easy for different teams to collaborate, right? So for example, if you have to integrate a dev step and a security and a quality step, you don't just have to throw it across the fence and wait for 2 days, right? You can build that into your process and enhance collaboration between those teams as well. So Opsera does support multiple use cases that span SDLC, infrastructure automation, and SaaS applications as well. So we've worked with Naresh and team closely to automate several SaaS applications on also infrastructure and core custom development. And last but not least, we provide a comprehensive set of insights and actionable intelligence. Opsera provides real-time logs through a unified console, so you don't have to log into multiple tools and troubleshoot and see what's going on. And we also allow you to do audit and compliance based on tracking information and uploading it to an auditor's requirements, etc. And we have about 100+ KPIs across 6 dimensions, all the way from planning, development, security, quality, operations. We've taken the best of metrics from Department of Defense, DORA, NIST, and that are most commonly used for DevOps. So in short, we are a platform that provides choice and automation to orchestrate tools, pipelines, and insights, and take the complexity away from your engineering team, so you can focus on your core product. That's a quick overview of Opsera. I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Chandra, one thing that I just want to ask you from the broader industry perspective. Of course, we worked closely for Honeywell. But a lot of organizations would have invested on these tools, the various DevOps tools in the past, and they wanted to probably keep some of them, and while they're okay to kind of standardize a few of them, they would like to still keep some of them. So how do you handle this from Opsera? Do you allow the organizations to have the choice of tools, or is it completely you prescribe set of tools from your side?
Great question, Naresh. So as I mentioned earlier, we also allow organizations to choose from the catalog of tools we provide, or we allow you to bring your own tools, right? Bring your own tools, or even go granularly to bring your own scripts or even parameters. In some cases, you may have your own instead of a Terraform script, you might have your own shell script that runs and provisions infrastructure. You can easily integrate that into Opsera. So in short, we provide a catalog of the best of breed, but we allow you to bring what you have and integrate, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. But you don't also have to now manage the scripting and integration between all of them going forward, right? So we can templatize how you use your existing tools or what you take from Opsera. So if you choose our tools from Opsera, you don't have to lifecycle manage those tools. We take care of it for you, right? We auto scaling or upgrades, all of that, we take care of it for you. So we support both, and we can also bring what you have and templatize that. So that way you don't have to manage that going forward, make it easy for you.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, because that also helped us at Honeywell. I'm just curious whether you kind of have this framework across industry when you're working with various customers, because it helped definitely Honeywell in that aspect where we identified that catalog, some of those tools what we brought, and some of the tools what you brought as part of the platform, and that templatized approach helped a lot to fast track this whole deployment. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Naresh. Just one point to add: the architecture and design behind Opsera. What we've done is it's a microservices-based architecture. We've developed microservices by categories of tools, right? So when you look at build, we've developed our microservices to address build tools. Similarly, for security and quality and deployment, so that allows you to add tools or swap tools, bring what you have, templatize very easily. And we're not developed it by tool, but by the category and the functions. So that makes it easy for you to have flexibility across tooling for DevOps functions.
Great.
And to make sure people don't confuse anything, you're not rebuying Jenkins from Opsera. Opsera just makes it easier to use Jenkins. If you already own something, you're not having to throw that away to use Opsera. Opsera just makes it easy to abstract that. So if the first person you brought in, CloudBees, put in an old version and then they left the company, someone needs to maintain that. So the idea is that Opsera gives you the ability to abstract that so it can be maintained without the DevOps teams having to be individually trained on how to patch these, deploy them, how to deal with the licensing of them. So when you go from free products like Jenkins to a paid product like the CloudBees product, you understand what you're doing, and you have the ability to put those cost controls in place. So it's not that you're being forced to use things that Opsera does. Opsera is giving you the flexibility to use the things that you want to use, and you can obtain them however you want to obtain your tools. So it's not like I'm going through IBM and having to choose anything that's IBM. It's the fact that I'm going through a process that lets me take the same power that we're doing in applications with no-code, low-code application development, and taking that same kind of concept and the speed of developing applications to providing that kind of speed to the DevOps teams by giving that framework that allows them to be fast and efficient at being DevOps and not have to worry about the actual minutia of maintaining these tools.
Absolutely, you summarized that really well, Michael. So it's the agility of choosing the tools or keeping the tools and provisioning and deploying them quickly. It's also about the integration of security and quality, right? So you're increasing your security quality posture by putting those gates where needed. And last but not least, when you have so many tools, visibility becomes an important problem. Visibility and governance, right? How do you stay on top of that so that it doesn't become a CTO, CIO, CISO's nightmare? So that is also, so it's a three-pronged aspect of agility, security, and efficiencies that we address from a value prop standpoint. So here's a quick summary of the value proposition of Opsera, right? As we said, our focus and vision is to make software delivery faster, safer, and smarter for multiple use cases. The intent is to propagate the DevOps culture, DevOps automation culture across multiple teams that may have different use cases. So a couple of the use cases that value propositions we've seen is agility. So Naresh mentioned some examples. What we're seeing is almost a 20 to 25x improvement in provisioning and deployment speeds, right? So that it makes it that much faster, and it also helps your go-to-market motion as well. The second is the enhanced security and quality posture that's measured, across different dimensions, like whether it's code scanning, container scanning, threat and vulnerability management, or in general just testing, right? We've seen significant improvements, more than 75 to 90% improved security posture, and also a reduction in resolution times. Imagine you having to log into multiple tools and search what's going on for issues. We've seen a 3 to 4x improvement in mean time to resolve and resolution times with Opsera's unified platform that allows you to track real-time logs. And lastly, as Naresh, to your point, I forgot to address your question earlier. Can you help rationalize tools, right? You can. So now when you connect your tools to a common registry, now you know who's using what tools for what purpose.
Yeah.
Is someone using the same tools, 3 different instances for the same thing, and you can help rationalize those tools. We've seen that almost a 25 to 50% tools rationalization cost has been achieved with the customers that we're working with. And last but not least is improved productivity, right? You don't now have to, you get self-service, you get automation, you get visibility across the ecosystem. So you can improve developer productivity and do more with less and focus them on the areas that matter more, which is a core product. Here's a quick overview about Opsera. So we have we have a lot of the Fortune 100, 500 customers using Opsera. We also have a marketplace presence in AWS, Atlassian, Slack, and Salesforce, and we're also working on Azure as we speak. You asked about integrations. We integrate to over 45, it's about 50 plus integrations of the most common CI/CD tools that we have today. That represents 80+% of the most prominent solutions, and we keep adding to those based on what customers need. And we also have a lot of technology and SI partnerships as well. And we are on industry analyst market guides, including GigaOM, among others, and have gotten significant industry recognition. So I wanted to take the opportunity to thank you, Naresh, for allowing us to be part of your journey. And it's been a wonderful experience for us. And we look forward to continuing to accelerate and increase customer value with the no-code orchestration approach.
Let's take a look at some of the key learnings as we wrap up here. So again, comprehensive maturity, the ability to identify gaps and solve them quickly, the ability to start with pilots. So you start with a key group and then grow. So it's not a big bang approach to starting this. So it's not big and scary. You can find the people who are highly motivated and use them as the kind of seed group to grow this cultural phenomenon throughout the rest of your corporation. The one platform helps you standardize the way you go forward, and it gives you that abstraction, that safety net that keeps you from having these fall through moments. And this does kind of need eventually an organizational change, but at least by putting this kind of no-code process in there, it allows you to start getting value before you've completed your organizational restructuring. The last two are process in the past where I would email or I would make a service ticket to move something forward isn't fast enough. So this gives you the ability to create a orchestrated pipeline of automated events that moves things through from thought to reality. And lastly, this gives you the ability to identify how well this is working, where you're getting value and where you're getting stuck, which hits on another theme for a lot of people in the corporations where they're looking at value stream mapping and trying to identify business transformation and tying business spend to IT outcomes.
It really brings together the different aspects of complexity that you had earlier stated, right? Which is across tools, process, and people as well. And Naresh, really, it layers in the assessment you had to make at Honeywell, right, before and after your journey, and change management, and identifying those value metrics and how you measure and map them later on, right, to articulate the value proposition. So this kind of brings it together in terms of what you've seen and how it transcends those dimensions of people, process, and tech. Would you say the same?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think you articulated very well. And when we talked about return of investment of such kind of initiative where we wanted to deploy DevSecOps across organization, one thing we right from the beginning we kind of really focused is, hey, what are the kind of metrics and the measurement we can do so that we also do this transformation, but at the same time keep an eye on the ROI, right, return of investment. So whether we are kind of reducing the tools cost, for example, as one of the value metric, whether we are kind of reducing the deployment times and time to market, and that's the biggest value for all our product teams and our project teams. and whether we are kind of really articulating the cycle time reduction and the quality improvements that are happening and translating that into a quantified benefit, for example, and really tie up with our finance teams and articulate, hey, this is how we are kind of really kind of benefiting the organization. So these are some of those things. If we do in a structured and consistent way, I think the value of such kind of initiative would be realized much broader way, I would say. And of course, the process standardization and the overall coming with a standard framework across org would speed up the deployment of such kind of DevSecOps across organization. Of course, we can do for one project, two projects, but having this broader framework and process standards and technology standards would bring the velocity of such kind of a deployment across organization.
Yeah, this kind of fits with some of the questions we have waiting for us. Let's go ahead and rotate into the final piece of the Q&A. So Naresh,
we have some questions that were submitted for us.
Yes. Yeah.
I can maybe help call out some of those questions. So there is a question for potentially you, Michael, or maybe we can all chime in. Please elaborate on how no-code orchestration can help enable shift left of security and quality, and also help with value stream delivery and value stream management.
Yeah, so let me try first and see how this maps with Honeywell. So by using a consistent approach and a kind of this no-code process, the ability to include groups that have narrowly been left out of this kind of DevOps process, like security, testing, network, is kind of addressed. So it's easy to add those other pieces into this pipeline and provide the ability for them to get outputs of the success or risks that a project has. So it speeds up the process and makes it more transparent, and it becomes easier for those other groups to be adopted in instead of being excluded from.
And I echo that, from Honeywell side, what we have done is right from the beginning, we kind of came up with a standard template for this for the pipeline and what tools to use, how to shift left, the security tools, how to shift left the quality tools. And these things brought consistency, because some teams may forget to kind of really do a code checks. But with this kind of automation, they don't have an option. They have to go through this, and the defects will be kind of really reported out in the dashboard and insights in Opsera. And then we kind of mandatorily make sure that those are resolved on those vulnerabilities. For example, security vulnerabilities are often found after post production. But right now, by shifting left those tools and really deploying these vulnerability scans right from the beginning, will help to kind of have inbuilt security within the product. So these are some of the advantages we also kind of realized at Honeywell.
Awesome. I think there was an element of how does this help value stream management? Maybe Michael, do you want to take a quick crack at that from a GigaOM perspective?
Because one of the things that is coming out is this concept of value stream management, and it's basically has two kind of views. One, how as a DevOps team do I improve my efficiencies and improve my team? But there's a higher level one, which is a management type of view, and how do I get the most value out of all my DevOps teams, and how do I identify bottlenecks that are causing various groups to have disruptions or delays or basically cost overruns is effectively what this kind of hits to. So by putting this kind of process in place, we now have the ability to get those metrics, those kind of data points into those tools that provide that kind of visibility to those managers so they can do something proactively based on real information. And that's a kind of a game changer in this process, because this is one of the things that's missing in that value stream mapping pieces is they don't really have the ability to get the kind of status from all these different tools. They typically only get data or status from like the beginning of a tool, whether it be Jira or something else, or the deployment process, but they're missing all the stuff in the middle. So this gives you the ability to provide that end-to-end visibility, as well as the visibility to things like SaaS products, which a lot of these VSM tools don't have the ability to get those kind of metrics.
Excellent. I just wanted to add that Opsera has also been in the market guides as a value stream management platform, and for some significant analyst vendor market guides. The one thing we're seeing more and more, and you just touched upon it, is it's not just across the DevOps lifecycle. Yes, of course, from planning to deployment, those metrics are very important. But then how do you also tie them to business outcomes, right? How do you tie them to customer experience? How do you tie them to financial performance? Those becomes important, and true value stream management platform helps you get that intelligence and tie it to true business outcomes as well. I have two more questions here. Naresh, I think this is for you. What are the top metrics and KPIs that customers have to focus on for measuring maturity of DevOps? I think we touched upon it briefly. What did Honeywell measure to determine your DevOps maturity increase, and what is next in your journey?
Yeah, definitely. From the overall maturity perspective, we also divided this into stage 1 to stage 5 at Honeywell. So the stage 1 is a basic automation. For example, we have the DevSecOps basic automation in place to the level where we integrate the continuous CI/CD pipeline, bring the dev and ops integration happen, and the seamless value stream mapping, and the metrics are in place or not. So that's kind of the level 5 maturity, and also the continuous improvement. Level 5, we also look at, hey, is not only just having the basic setup, but are we kind of continuously improving? And that continuous improvement culture, is it established or not? That's another metric we also measure as part of the maturity at Honeywell, right? So this whole maturity aspects, not only process maturity, but the technology maturity, but the people maturity is also very equally important. We, as part of our framework, we also kind of look at what is the skill level of the teams who are kind of really deploying this, and are they trained, completely trained or not? Are they kind of really using the best practices, what we kind of really suggest as part of the process framework? So these are all the elements. We also measure the people maturity. That is equally important, because over a period of time, when we establish this whole DevSecOps in the organization, all the aspects from the people, process, technology is important. And on top of it, the value metrics, what I talked about, right? So everything together will establish the culture over a period of time. And that's what we are aiming for at Honeywell as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Naresh. There's one question here. I guess this is for Opsera. Do you support AWS and Kubernetes and GitOps? And what are all the SaaS applications that you support? Right. So I can take this on behalf of Opsera. Yes, Opsera is based on even as I mentioned earlier, our entire architecture is based on a microservices and container model, right? And we can certainly support Kubernetes. All of our tools, deployments, and how pipelines are built and orchestrated and run is in a container-based model. So we can support multiple clouds, multiple tools, as I mentioned earlier. We also support GitOps, right? Whether it is to orchestrate and automate that GitOps chain, GitOps is being adopted more and more, or just give you visibility on top of existing GitOps models, right? Which could span multiple tools and clouds. So Opsera does support native AWS, Azure, or an abstraction of multi-cloud, along with GitOps support as well. So we absolutely do it. You can go to the Opsera website for a demo. And on the SaaS applications, SDLC, we do support all languages, .NET, Python, you name it, right? Or multi-language, etc. We also support infrastructure automation, where you can allow you to provision infrastructure, but also deploy applications on top of infrastructure. For example, you could bring your own Terraform scripts or CloudFormation or your own shell scripts, and you can easily orchestrate that through Opsera. And lastly, on the SaaS apps, Naresh did touch upon some of the apps that they have actually done a great job of automating. So we started off with Salesforce, and we have a very mature enterprise offering for Salesforce CI/CD, but we've also expanded that to Snowflake, Adobe AEM, EPG, and we're now also automating SAP Hybris as well, amongst others. And we do continue to, our goal is to have a common framework that can address multiple use cases, right, from a no-code orchestration standpoint. So I think those were some of the questions. Michael, I'll hand it back to you here for any final comments.
Just a little bit more, this kind of about who GigaOM is. We're a research, syndicated research vendor doing vendor agnostic, led by practitioners like myself, where I spent most of my career as a chief architect for a Fortune 500 company. So the knowledge we give you is based on practitioners and the kind of insight we have is mirrored or is matched by what we talked about today with Naresh from Honeywell, and the fact that this is not theoretical knowledge, this is actual practical knowledge you can take advantage of and get value out today. And I thank you for attending this webinar. And again, for follow-ups, you can reach out to GigaOM, to Opsera, and I presume Opsera will be able to provide you contacts to Honeywell if you want to follow up with Honeywell.
Thank you, Michael. I wanted to take this opportunity for allowing us to have this discussion with industry thought leaders. And Naresh, excellent to have you on here, and congratulations to you and your team on a wonderful transformation effort. Even though it's in progress, you've done an amazing job in the last 6 to 8 months. And thanks for having us as part of your journey. You can go to Opsera at www.opsera.io for a demo, and we'll be happy to answer any questions or showcase Opsera. Naresh, thank you once again, and leave it to you for any final comments.
No, thanks a lot. I really appreciate the partnership with Opsera, and also thanks to GigaHome for giving me an opportunity to share our journey at Honeywell. So really appreciate, and thanks a lot for everyone.
Thank you.